You'll never know them. You'll never hear them. But they've encouraged us.
And I remember she said, I think you will do what you're doing now. I think you'll minister to women and children. And you know what's so special about that is that is part of my ministry.
And he caught me in the lobby afterwards, and he said, he had tears in his eyes. He said, I want to know how I can serve. It's the least things, it's the small things, it's the unknown people that make a massive impact.
You are listening to We Can Talk About This podcast, conversations with Jonathan and Christa Threlfall about ideas shaping us and the world we live in.
And today we are going to talk about encouragement from people that you've never met.
And will never meet.
Probably.
Most likely.
Unless just by chance their paths cross. But even if you meet them, you won't know that you'll have met them because we're not going to tell their names. We're going to talk about people who have influenced us, encouraged us along at some point in our lives.
Yeah.
And we actually don't know. Well, you saw some of the people that I'm writing about, but you didn't show me your list.
We made separate lists. I have mine on a Post-it note right here.
And I have mine written on my laptop here. But I think you should go first because I showed my cards just a little bit. You didn't show your cards.
All right.
Or your card.
So, why are we talking to you about this? When you will never meet these people, even if you do, you won't know that you did because you won't know their names. We love getting encouragement from other people. We love it. It's one of our favorite things to do. And we find encouragement from people in a lot of different ways. We like to listen to podcasts and listen to music and read books. But not everybody is going to write a book. And yet their stories deserve to be told.
Yeah.
And have influenced us in our walk with Jesus and in our marriage and in our parenting and so many other areas. And so we thought it would just be fun to take an episode just to talk about specific ways that we've been encouraged throughout our lives.
Yeah. In fact,
almost 40 years.
Almost 40 years. You were not supposed to give my age away.
You're not 40 yet.
Okay, I'm almost there. That's even more precise. But I will say this, that I think it's because they are unknown that it makes them even more encouraging. Because they're not doing this because they're an author or because they're a pastor or a preacher. They're doing it because that's just who they are.
Yeah.
And that's part of the whole package of encouragement is this person. You'll never know them. You'll never hear them. But they've encouraged us. And we love that. So we want to share that with you.
Yeah. So, and it can be easy also to look at the big works, the published works, or things that look professional, and to look to those alone to derive encouragement. But there are so many good things that God is doing right around us, through people around us, that we can find encouragement from. So
you need to go first.
Started by thinking through some people who influenced me just as a child and a teenager. I did not write. Okay. All right. Now I feel like I need to give a caveat because we've already mentioned how influential our parents have been. And so, of course, they have been so influential in huge ways in our lives.
Would you say all these people are second to the influence our parents have?
Well,
not
obviously.
Just second, but below the influence that our parents had on us, definitely.
Yes. So this...
Good point. I'm glad you made that.
Yeah. Yes. But here's someone. When I was a child, maybe like 12, all the way up until I got married, there was a lady in my church who would just regularly take me out for breakfast. And, when I came home from college, she would reach out and say, hey, let's go to Hardee's. Let's go to Burger King. Like, let's just go get breakfast together. And we would do that. And it was something that happened, not even once a month, but regularly, and just her taking an interest in me. That I look back at that and think how much that shaped me. Just to know that there was someone else. You hope that your parents will love you and invest in you, but when there's someone else too, that is wealth. And so I'm really grateful. I can see just different conversations that we had that really shaped me to be who I am.
That's good. That's very good.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll reach back on my teenage years as well. I'm thinking of a Sunday school teacher I had when I was in ninth grade. And it was a boys' Sunday school class, all ninth graders, probably eighth and ninth graders. And this Sunday school teacher made a big impression on me, first of all, because he was really ripped, like physically, very, a very imposing presence, which for any ninth grade boy, that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
Also, for some youth activities, we played flag football, and remember, he outran everybody. So that was another point in his favor. But the thing that really the Lord used him to shape me was his direct teaching of the word right to where I was as a ninth grade boy, and his talking about the importance of reading the Bible, the importance of being pure in my thoughts and what I looked at. And he and his wife had my family over for dinner one time, and I remember, well, we ate spaghetti. That's just really amazing that I remember those details. And I remember there was a picture of him on a mantle or on a shelf somewhere in the dining room. And I was looking at it, and he looked so different in that picture because it was from when he had before he had met Christ, and his life had changed a lot. And he saw me looking at that picture, and he said, a lot has changed since then. This is what Christ can do in a person's life to change that. That stood out to me,
Yeah.
and that really it raised the preciousness of Christ for me, and it also and now it makes me think of what an impact a Sunday school teacher of ninth grade boys can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good.
Uh,
The next person I have written down, it's really not even much of a story,
hmm.
but it was an older man. I say older,
He
older.
was probably in his 40s. Oh, not even 40.
Yeah, the definition of older keeps getting older
It
as we
does.
get.
It really does.
But anyway, in my teenage mind, he was an older man,
Mhm.
and there was nothing crazy epic that he did. But I just remember he would ask me different questions
Hmm.
just about me and about my life. And it seemed like he enjoyed talking with me. And as a teenager, when you're already struggling with who you are and maybe not even liking yourself and feeling like other people don't like you, that was huge for me. And I just remember I really enjoyed talking with him.
Hmm.
It was, after services, and that was it. But I just remember God using that to encourage me
Mhm.
as a teenager, just having a friend who was
That's good.
older. And God gave me lots of friends, but that he stuck out in my mind as someone who just was very kind and gracious and just interested.
That's good. Kindness, graciousness,
Huge.
just interest in another person.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, it is.
Small but easily overlooked in how important they are.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got one.
Okay.
Were you gonna say anything else about that?
Do you have another one from your teenager?
It is from my teenage
Okay,
life.
good.
Yeah. So this is a little older teenage me. There was a man who taught me Greek.
Hmm.
He would come over to our house. It probably took him at least an hour to get to our house. And it was on Friday nights too. I'm pretty sure it was Friday nights.
And was it only you he taught, or did
Taught
he
my
teach?
brother and me.
Okay.
He taught us both Greek. And
Yeah, two for the price of one hour.
but he would come, and I remember he brought I think a little whiteboard with him. He would write the Greek words on that board, and that's how I was 16 when I first started learning the Greek. When I first started learning how to read the Greek New Testament, and I remember one winter it was snowing,
Hmm.
and he had to, I think he either walked or had to take a taxi from the subway station to our
Wow.
apartment, like 10 minutes. But that was a big commitment.
That
Looking
is.
back on that, I'm like, man, that guy was committed.
Yeah.
And it honestly wasn't even because he was so excited about Greek that there'd be future Greek scholars. It's because he cared about us. And that was one way that he knew how to care for a geeky little teenage kid. I mean, it could have been anything that he showed interest in me and helped me out with, but it was Greek for him to teach and for me to learn, and that really has shaped me.
That is good. Another person who came to mind, this is someone I babysat for,
Hmm.
and she has since passed away,
Hmm.
actually. But I shared this story with her husband recently when in one of the many I babysat before I could drive, so she would pick me up and drop me back off
Hmm.
at my home. And I remember talking with her one time about what I would do when I grew up. And I asked her, I said, what do you think I'll do when I grow up? And I remember she said, I think you will do what you're doing now. I think you'll minister to women and children.
Hmm.
And you know what's so special about that is that that is part of my ministry
Yeah.
now. And so I remember when she said it, I didn't really think that much of it. I didn't know. I was, maybe 14 or 15. But looking back,
Hmm.
that is so special to me.
Yeah.
And she was someone who just always loved me,
Hmm.
and I could tell from the way that she talked with me.
Hmm. Isn't it interesting that the things we've talked about, just the last two encouragers, have encouraged us with
Three.
things?
I had three.
Okay,
Yeah.
three. Have encouraged us with things that we're doing now.
Yeah.
Like I use Greek
Yep.
every week and I prepare for sermons. That started with that man way back when I was 16 years old. I teach the Bible to people, and I had a Sunday school teacher who taught the Bible to me.
Mhm.
You you teach women. You
Mhm.
had a woman who told you that one day you would probably be teaching women.
Mhm.
And that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah,
Very encouraging.
it is.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
Unless you want to go, you want to go another one? Do another one because I don't think I have as many as you.
Okay. All right. Well,
You have a long list there.
I know. And do you notice how I'm sort of holding it?
I see that. She's not going to let me see that list.
Well, gotta keep some
Okay.
secrets.
Yep.
So when we got married, we moved to a church in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we were there for 8.5 years.
Yes.
I was 21 when we got married. Neither of us lived near any family.
Right.
And I remember there was an older man there. And for a long time after we moved there, whenever I talked with him, he would say, "How's your family? And have you seen your parents recently? Are you going to see that?" And I just loved that so much because he knew. Here's this 21-year-old kid, and she's not living near family. And just that he thought of that. He knew that, boy, she must be missing her family. And so that's what he asked me about.
Mm.
And isn't that funny? That's like such a small thing, but was such an encouragement to me.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in with another one from that same time of our lives, and that is we lived on the church property. So looking across the parking lot from the church lobby, you can see our house. And I would go to church early to prepare to teach Sunday school. Christa had the kids to get ready. And there was an older man. He was probably in his 40s.
Did you look at my list?
I didn't look at your list. Did you already have that?
Uh-huh.
Okay, you want to finish the story then?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll submit.
So there was a time when Christa and I have 4 kids, of course, and I think at that point you only had 3. We only had 3, but you had to take them across the parking lot, and he would walk across the parking lot and help you carry the kids.
Yeah, and I mean, I was like either always pregnant or like
With little
having
kids.
little babies or something, and it was like it wasn't a huge walk, but it was just a lot to manage in a parking lot of a car.
Yeah.
And yes, I had him written down as well because both he and his wife were so precious with our kids. And you love people's kids, you are loving them.
Yeah.
And it was such a help. I don't know, maybe there were some times when he thought it was not a big deal, but it was always a big deal to me. It was always such a help.
And it meant so much to me that
Yeah.
in a time when I couldn't help Christa, to know that someone was helping her. And
Yeah. I have so many others from that time. There's an older lady who committed to babysit during the ladies' Bible study. There was, and so that I could go because our kids made up the majority of that study time, and that was such a blessing to me, just as a young mom, to be able to sit in the ladies' Bible study, have conversations with other ladies about the Word of God, and I would do that even with my kids around. But it was such a blessing to have that time, and I think it could be easy. It could have been easy for her to say, "Hey, I've already done my time with kids. My kids are grown. I'm done." but she was always eager to sit with them and so sweet with them, and that meant a lot to me.
Hmm. Maybe you should do a couple more since you have so many, so I don't run out before you do.
Okay. All right. Here's another one from that time. Like I said, we didn't live near family, but there was an older lady who just took it upon herself to help celebrate our kids' birthdays. And so she would get a little cake and presents
Hmm.
and schedule a time to come over, have lunch with us, celebrate the kids, and kind of like an adopted grandma. And what a gift that was, because our kids' birthdays are kind of all close together as well. So it was just another
Yeah.
way to make them feel special.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another time when I was on bed rest with Karis, I had to be just resting for a period of time. I remember there were so many people in our church who helped with meals and cleaning our house and helping take care of our other three children so that I could actually rest. And there was another young mom who came over and she brought a cooler and a printout menu plan with not just dinner, but it was like it was all of these different meals and very carefully cataloged of what I could do and what accessories of the meal went. And that was so impactful because she already had a busy life. She already had a baby. And I still remember that to this day.
Yeah.
Just what an encouragement that
Yeah.
was.
That's really good. Mind if I go now?
Please.
So this is fast forwarding a good bit to this ministry. And there is someone who often asks me how I'm doing. He says, I want you to know how you're doing. And don't give me a quick answer. How are you doing with your family? How are you doing in your marriage? How are you doing in your walk with the Lord, in your time in the Word? Are you exercising regularly? And he'll he'll do it with a patience and deliberation that makes me know he's waiting for a real answer and not a fake answer. This is not just a greeting. It's fine to use how are you doing as a greeting. I think that's fine. I need that. I really value that. And that is a constant source of not just encouragement, but pausing for self reflection. Sometimes I'm not willing to ask myself that question as much as I should. And he asks me, and I need to think about it, give him an honest answer. And it's not even like I asked him to do this. He knows how important it is for a pastor, just a man, a fellow man, to be asked those questions.
Yeah.
And that is incredibly encouraging.
And I'm grateful
Yeah.
he does that.
Yeah.
Because of course, I can ask you those questions and I want to know the answers.
Right.
But I need and you need to have people who ask you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a similar thing. There's an older man in our church who often will come and say, "And how are you?" And it's in that same way where I know it's not like, "Oh, hey, how are you?" It's which, hey, bless those questions
Right.
too. But it is done in a way that I know he wants to know.
Yeah.
And he's prepared for an honest answer if I'm like terrible.
Yeah. And you would give him that honest answer.
I would.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have another one or shall I go?
Go ahead.
Okay. Someone that was encouraging to me several years ago, I had preached a sermon on the importance of serving in the church. And this person has since passed. At the time, he was very elderly. He used a cane, very, very feeble. And he caught me in the lobby afterwards and he said, he had tears in his eyes. He said, I want to know how I can serve. He said, I used to teach Sunday school. I used to do this and that in the church. And now being elderly, I'm limited, but I just want to keep serving Jesus. How can I do it? And as he's talking to me about this, he could hardly stand. I think during the conversation, he had to sit down in a chair nearby. And I was so moved by that. And because there are plenty of people with lots of energy and two strong legs who could have come up to me after the service and asked that very question, but it was one of the feeblest, most elderly in the person in the congregation that most desperately wanted to serve the Lord. And I was encouraged, I was challenged, and I was stirred. And at the time I told him, I said, the way you are encouraging and serving is by being here. It's by just getting out of your house, out of your bed, and out of your house and to this place and worshiping with us. And that's the ministry you have right now. But to see his heart, his desire to serve the Lord in whatever year of life he was in was very encouraging to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think both of us have found substantial encouragement from older people in our congregation who faithfully come, and their health is failing, their abilities are decreasing, and their faithfulness isn't. They're still coming, they're praying, they're praying in a way that they are talking to God.
Yeah.
They're singing, and you can see that they are singing to God.
Mm-hmm.
And they're working to obey God in different areas. That I cannot even calculate the encouragement that is to my faith.
Yes.
Just to see them faithfully serving God, faithfully attending.
Yeah.
And another group of people is that is such an encouragement is younger people,
Mm-hmm.
specifically younger families. We're not in that family with young kids stage anymore. We don't have babies. Our youngest is 7. And so, but we remember. And so just to see other families who are still being faithful to God and faithful to church.
Yeah.
I love to use the term schlep. I'm just you're just schlepping your kids out here because
I
sometimes
should probably look that one up to see what it actually means.
I should. No. Anyway, hopefully it's nothing bad, but it just sometimes you feel like you barely have gotten in the vehicle to get somewhere, and you're just coming out and you feel like a wreck. But being there, you just your presence is such an encouragement to other people. And I can say that authoritatively because I have been encouraged, even if I am not able to speak a word to older people or younger people or other people like that who are faithful. I'm just encouraged by their presence and sometimes discouraged when they're not
By their
there.
absence.
Yeah.
By people's absence. Yeah. I think it is true that when you see someone at church and you knew it took a lot for them to get there.
Yeah.
It took, for an older person, pain.
Yeah.
It took the risk of getting into a car and driving there and getting out of the car and walking across the parking lot, and they made it. They made it to church. Our presence at an event says that event is important.
Yeah.
And when that event is unified around love for one another, their presence there says, I love you. I love you more than my bed. I love you more than my warm house. I love you more than my convenience. I'm going to be here.
I love you more than sitting in pajamas in front of the live stream.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, that's good. Do you have anyone else? Because I have just a couple more, I think.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I have one more specifically written down. And this just happened. I saw you glancing at my list.
I did glance at your list. I couldn't read anything though.
This just happened recently where we were talking with someone. No, someone was sharing with us different ways that she and her husband have been changed from coming to church regularly. And she said, we are different people now.
Yeah.
But she said everything about us is changed. Our marriage, the way we spend our money.
Yeah.
And she was going into this, and then at the end she said, I know that's not an epic story or anything. And I talked with her later, and I said, that is an epic story.
That's epic.
Because that is a sign of the Spirit working in their hearts to change everything about them. And she even acknowledged, she said, people wouldn't have looked at us and thought we were bad. They would have looked at us and thought we were good spiritual people, but it's coming and regularly ingesting the Word of God that the Spirit has changed us. And that those everyday faithfulness lifestyle repentance, obedience stories
Mm.
are epic.
You know, what's amazing about that is that I don't know that couple well enough to have known that would have been the case.
Yes.
And if it were not for the fact that she had said
Mm.
that. And here's another thing that makes that amazing is that this is not a young couple. It's not like they're just establishing their habits or
Yeah.
patterns in life. This is a couple who's in their upper decades of life.
Mm-hmm.
And yet to say, probably, I don't know, 70s or whatever, but to say that we've been changed by the word, we've been transformed, our marriage, our spending habits, like we're talking about decades of habits to be changed. Man, I was encouraged by that.
It's something only God can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
I've got another one. Um, Seeing people's marriages. And I'm thinking of specific people in our church who, older couples, will hold hands, look at each other adoringly, speak about each other behind their backs in a way that's incredibly complimentary, saying nice things about and to each other. That is amazingly encouraging. There's there's a guy in our church who, whenever he speaks about his wife, he refers to as, I can't believe I get to be married to her. She's beautiful. And I love that.
Mm-hmm.
As a younger man, I'm a very young man. Uh, that to me is hope giving. It's encouraging. It's life giving. It's reassuring. And this guy has no idea how much he was just saying that not to make a point, just because it was the overflow of his thoughts.
Yeah.
He has no idea how much it encouraged me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I should probably tell him sometime.
Yeah, you should. You should. Yeah. That is something even with we were able to visit our church in Charlotte that we used to be at last year. Yeah, last year.
Yeah.
And I went to these people and I said, "Hey, you have no idea how much it meant for you to help me across the parking lot with my kids. You have no idea how encouraging it was for you to come and celebrate our kids' birthdays with us. Just those things were huge.
Yeah.
Huge for us.
Yeah.
Seeing people walk through trials,
Yes.
that's also been very humbling for both of us. You know, you watch people go through life-threatening illness.
Yes.
You watch people bury their parents, bury their children, and seeing people walk through grief and lament, questioning, doubting, and but in all of it, turning to God with their questions.
Yeah.
That is deeply
Yeah.
encouraging to us.
I had written down to people suffering, seeing them honestly wrestle through their faith, how they can connect what they believe about God to what they're experiencing, and even their willingness to be vulnerable about that. I remember even someone in the lobby of our church sharing with a couple people standing in the group, I'm having a hard time trusting God with this. I'm not, in fact, the person was confessing, I'm not doing a good job trusting God with this condition that person has a painful, embarrassing kind of condition. To hear that being openly spoken of, in the context of a church with people who loved her was just amazingly uh, God adoring, did something God adoring in my heart.
Yeah.
It made me realize God is so great that he is working in this person's heart and working through us as church people too, to minister to this person in their suffering.
Yeah, and that's what we're supposed to do is encourage each other, you know, like on our journey home is encouraging each other. Philippians and Colossians, Paul starts out both of these books by talking about, I thank my God in all my remembrance of you. I can definitely say that for each of these people I mentioned, and so many I didn't mention. Like, this is just a little post-it note. I'll show you now.
Don't let them see it, right? I didn't even get to see that. Why should they?
A little post-it note of people, and there are so many others. But do you know where we encountered all of these people? They were all in the context of local churches that we have been a part of.
Yeah.
And it's easy to look at these things, like even talking about them, they're small, relatively small things. But who's to say what's small? Right? I mean, I think we have a wrong view of what's actually small and what's big.
Mm,
And so just the encouragement to be faithful where God has you.
yeah.
Just be faithful, invest in other people, move towards other people in love, and trust that God knows what he's doing when he puts you around the people he does.
Yeah. Just makes me think of Jesus' words when he said that whoever wants to be greatest will be least, and whoever is least will be the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. It's it's the least things, it's the small things, it's the unknown people that make a massive impact.
Mm-hmm.
So be in church. That's a huge, important application of this. It's like
Yeah.
all the people that we mentioned, we met them in the context of a local church, and we encountered them because they were faithful in showing up, in being there, not having any idea what kind of impact they'd have.
Yeah.
So the Lord uses all these things to
Yeah.
shape and help us.
And that is the great thing about church gatherings, is that they happen regularly.
Yes.
They happen on times when you are like just rejoicing and praising God, and they happen on times when you're feeling down and struggling and going through really deep trials.
Yeah.
And so we need each other.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Don't forget to check out our website, wecoulddtalkaboutthispodcast.com, for notes and resources and other episodes.
Hope you join us next time.